heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place.
Good morning and welcome to the regular Sunday morning online worship of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Montgomery. It's February 20, 2022.
All of you is welcome here. Your cultural and your ethnic and your ancestral self, your physical self, spiritual self, intellectual self, your reasonable, your eccentric, and your fantastical self, your emotional, sexual, political self, your worried, anxious, eager, joyful, weary, aching, healing self. Leave nothing at the door and bring your whole self. All of who you are is welcome in this place.
My name is Lynn Hopkins. It is my honor to serve this congregation as its minister. And I am standing on the ancestral ground of the Muskogee Creek people here in Montgomery, Alabama. I'd like to invite you into this hour of worship with words from Marsha P. Johnson. History isn't something you look back at and say it was inevitable. It happens because people make decisions that are sometimes very impulsive and of the moment, but these moments are cumulative realities. Those of you who would like, join me in speaking aloud our congregational covenant. We, the members and friends of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Montgomery, promise to serve our community with open minds, willing hearts, and helping hands, as we respect one another, honoring that our perceptions may differ, value our differences, working to better understand them in conflict, give joyfully of ourselves, being in harmony with our capabilities, and embrace our connections with each other, nature, the global community, and the great mystery of life. Customarily at this moment, I would be inviting our coordinator of religious education, Roger Burdett, to offer us a time for all ages, but I'm giving Roger the week off. I have a time for all ages that is exactly on topic today, so I am offering this to you.
For many people, taking part in activism is a choice, something they can choose to do or not to do. But for Marsha P. Johnson, a low-income, Black, trans woman from New Jersey, campaigning for LGBTQ+ rights was a necessary, lifelong battle. Born in 1945 and assigned male at birth, Marsha felt female all her life. Sadly, her family did not accept her identity. So after graduating from high school, Marsha moved to New York City. She dressed in women's clothing and gave herself the name Marsha P. Johnson. The P stood for Pay It No Mind, a phrase she adopted as her life's motto. To survive, Marsha earned money as a sex worker. It was dangerous, but one of the few options available to her as a trans woman. In 1969, she was a key figure in the Stonewall Uprising, a spontaneous and violent response by the LGBTQ+ community against police brutality and widespread discrimination. At a time when homosexuality and homosexual acts were illegal in the United States, Marsha participated in protests, marches, rallies, and sit-ins championing LGBTQ+ rights. In 1970, she co-founded STAR, an organization that provided care for homeless transgender youth, the first of its kind. For her tireless activism, Marsha became known in the LGBTQ+ community as Saint Marsha. She was a neighborhood celebrity, known for her generosity, positivity, and style. But Marsha continued to face immense challenges. She was frequently arrested for violating discriminatory anti-LGBTQ+ laws, was often homeless, and experienced violence through her activism and her sex work. In 1992, her body was found in the Hudson River. The cause of her death remains unknown, but friends and family believe she was murdered just for being herself. How do LGBTQ+ activists continue to make change today?
We take a moment out of the service to lift up and let go the things that we carry with us through the week. Some of these are heavy burdens. Members of our family who are ill, separation or conflict within families and among friends, worries, disappointments, grief. If you carry something like that on your heart this morning, I hope that you will share it in the chat. I want to take this time to lift up a close family member who is facing the advance of Parkinson's disease in his life right now. I know that we have illness and challenges within our congregational community. Some of them may be known to you as well. I ask you to lift up these concerns, to offer them in prayer or reflection, in compassionate thoughts. We also have joy. Good things still happen. And so for the birthdays and anniversaries, the Bradford pears showing signs of spring, for new jobs, new opportunities, for classroom activities underway, whatever brings you joy in life. I hope that you are giving attention to it. I invite you to share in the chat. And for all of the other things on our hearts, the things to which we are giving energy, the things that are getting in the way of our paying attention these days, all of the things we bring into this space, this sacred shared space, to let them go. It is our practice to share the undesignated Sunday collection with an organization doing work on the ground to which we are dedicated in principle. And in these days, facing such severe restrictions on women's access to reproductive health care, there are people, individuals, and organizations all over the country and here in Montgomery working to ensure that women have the access that they need to the care that they need, that transportation and lodging are available, that families are cared for during absences, that all of the things, the complicated things that go into especially a life of poverty when such care is needed. And we as a congregation in the past have partnered with the Powerhouse on other projects, and they are facing some critical financial need right now. And so for this quarter, we are sharing 1/2 of the undesignated contributions with the Powerhouse here in Montgomery.
There will be no doom. Happy from the Father of creation. We got one love, one heart, so let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright.
Masihlanganeni sonke sibe munye.
This is the 8th Sunday of our Chalaka commemoration, the 8th and last. Chalaka is a manufactured winter festival of Unitarian Universalism in which on each occasion in a series of 8, we give particular attention to one of our principles. And for each one, we light a candle. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in our congregations and in society at large. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. And for today, number 7, the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Number 7 was added a few years after the first 6. Number 8 has not been formally adopted by the association, although it has been adopted by our congregation. But number 7 was created to address the absence of any mention of the natural world. Here we are in this day of terrifying, rapid climate change, and it seems unthinkable that these principles would have been created without mention of the earth. But it was so. And by lifting up the interdependent web, we acknowledge that the natural world does not exist in hierarchy, that each element and aspect of the natural world is dependent on every other, that the extinction or oppression of one portion is to the detriment of all living and non-living things. It also recognizes that within our diverse theological family of Unitarian Universalism, there are many of us who hold the natural world and the forces within nature as the expression of the sacred. And so, the seventh principle. But like last week, I'm not talking about the seventh principle today. week I talked about a monumental figure in Black history whose name is not a household name in most of the country, not afforded the prominence of John Lewis, or Ralph Abernathy, or Julian Bond, in spite of his immense, incalculable contributions to the movement for racial equality and Black civil rights in the 20th century. Bayard Rustin was largely kept from public view then and is largely excluded in the storytelling now because he was unapologetically gay. Today, I want to go a little deeper into Black history and the history of gay liberation by talking about another momentous figure, one whose name is even less widely known. Like Rustin, Marsha P. Johnson poured her energy into transforming society in order to save her own life and to save the lives and honor the dignity of her peers and companions, and especially of the younger generation and generations to come. Like Rustin, her activity had massive political impact, but she never attained or sought any significant political power in her own right. Like Rustin, her work benefited millions of people who would come after, many who would never even know her name. And yet her work brought her no comfort or wealth. Her focus was not racial equality, although she certainly experienced violent racism throughout her life. Rather, Marsha P. Johnson's life work was focused at demolishing the definitions and limitations and societal rules around gender. She was a hugely famous trans woman at a time when the language of transgender identity did not yet exist. Now, there are a number of videos about Marsha P. Johnson, about her life, as well as the controversy surrounding her death and the way in which police failed for 20 years to even treat it seriously. A few feature-length films have been produced, and there's at least a dozen short videos on YouTube that summarize her contributions. Sadly, many of them are fraught with inaccuracies. There are some videos that I think have some significant value and are fairly well done, but I can't show you them in the entirety because of the errors of fact. So I'm going to give you some pieces. I think some of these folks tell the story in a more visually appealing and engaging way than I could if I were just to recount facts of her life.
She was just so charming and so much fun.
For some in the LGBTQ community, Johnson is now seen as almost a saint. In the 1960s, she emerged against all odds to become an outspoken activist. At the time, Johnson worked as a prostitute and a performer to earn money, and had to deal with harassment, homelessness, violence, arrest, and prejudice. It wasn't just mainstream society out to hurt her. In the aftermath of the Stonewall Uprising, which Johnson took part in, gay rights activists tried to sideline her and her friend Sylvia Rivera, viewing them as detrimental to the larger movement.
There was no empathy, no understanding among, and I think it's true, among especially the emerging gay movement. Their view of transvestites, really trans people versus drag queens, were that they were an embarrassment.
Johnson and Rivera refused to be silenced. They founded Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, STAR, a group home to help gender nonconforming young adults. For trans people of color, Johnson's legacy is especially inspiring.
What is so clear to me is just how powerful she was as an individual, that people were really inspired by a woman who was the most marginalized of the marginalized.
Turn around, you're on TV, Marsha.
Marsha P. Johnson is remembered as an activist and free spirit, with flowers or Christmas lights in her hair, and said to be one of the first rioters at Stonewall in 1969. Before the term transgender entered the lexicon, Marsha called herself a transvestite or a drag queen.
When I became a drag queen, I started to live my life as a woman.
A fellow activist once saw Marsha asleep under a table of lilies at a flower shop. The employees welcomed her because they thought she was holy. Once, a judge asked Marsha what the P in her name stood for. She explained.
Pay no mind Johnson. Marsha pay no mind Johnson.
The judge, charmed, said, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. She was released. Marsha was a founding member of the Gay Liberation Front. She was also an advocate for those affected by HIV and AIDS, and rejected the stigma and shame associated with the virus.
I think you should stand as close to them as you can and help out as much as you can. Including myself, I have HIV.
She remained devoted to her Christian faith throughout her life. Friends say she could be found praying in various churches, at times dressed in velvet, throwing glitter. Marsha died in 1992 at the age of 46. At the time, police said she had taken her own life, a claim friends disputed.
I mean, it's hard for me to believe that she would commit suicide.
The case was reopened in 2012 as a possible homicide.
I first heard about Marsha P. Johnson when I was about, 17. Learning about Marsha made me feel a little less alone in the world. She took it upon herself with other trans women to look out for the sex workers, make sure they had what they needed. And the way Marsha operated was, if I had it, you had it. I remember reading about her death. It didn't feel right that she would commit suicide and her body just happened to be found in, I believe, the Hudson River. I believe she was murdered, and because she was Black and trans, the police didn't care. I know for a fact that if this were a white cisgender woman, they would be searching far and wide to find out what happened. But because she was Black, trans, and a sex worker, because she, according to them, was just at the bottom of the barrel, they did not care. Marsha, to me, is a reminder to keep walking in my truth, even when the road gets hard, even when the odds are stacked up against me. Do not care for Black trans women once we die, once we become a hashtag. Start caring now, today. in this minute.
The stories all mention how police ruled her death a suicide immediately after her body was found in the Hudson River. And the account we just heard emphasized the ways in which Black lives are devalued, and trans lives are devalued, and sex workers' lives are devalued. And perhaps it is because it remains such a powerful stigma, even within those particular populations. The narrative omits another significant factor that may have contributed to police discarding the life and worth of Marsha P. Johnson. She struggled with mental illness throughout her life. She made no secret of it and refused any shame from it. One of her most famous quotes is, "I may be crazy, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong." She wasn't wrong. Marsha P. Johnson insisted that every person has a right, an absolute right, to express their identity in a way that is authentic. More than that, she demanded that right be recognized in public, in the streets and in the shops, in the office, and yes, in the church. She wasn't wrong. Martha insisted that every young person has a right to a parent who cares for and protects them, whether or not that person is a natural or legal parent. She wasn't wrong. She insisted that every human being, even the ones who make us uncomfortable with what we consider bizarre behavior and unconventional attire, every person has the right to be among us. Every person has the right to be in our midst as family. She wasn't wrong. Marsha insisted that every person has the right to a safe shelter, to adequate food, and more than that, to companionship and joy. She was not wrong. We live in a world now that would say she was crazy. We are subjected to the spewing of straight white faces contorted with hatred and contempt, saying you have to vote for them because they despise all of these messages of liberation, all of these terrifying dark-skinned bodies, these queer souls, these intellects that won't stop speaking uncomfortable truths. Marsha was all of those things. And they would call her crazy and diseased and dangerous. And I call her beautiful and powerful and holy. And the tragic truth is Marsha and her friends were excluded and condemned by the power centers, even in the gay rights movement that she helped raise from infancy. The gay rights movement as it existed then was dominated by the voices of white men, whose primary purpose was to prove that we're no different from them. The overriding mission was to gain acceptance and access into polite society as equals. Marsha saw the need to build a new kind of society, one without the politics of dress and etiquette and meticulous grammar that establish the rungs of power and dominance. Marsha struggled for something we might now call the beloved community, a society in which every single human being is recognized and honored as a full, beautiful person. Her methods, her presentation, her boisterous rejection of all the hypocritical propriety was an inconvenience for the white male gay rights advocates of her time. They thought that such things would hold us back, that she'd make it easier for others to stereotype, ridicule, and exclude all gay folk as freaks. Marcia knew that, and she felt it, but refused to be silenced or diminished by it. Her power was her strength, her integrity that shines through. I try to walk with Marcia, to hear her voice. It is a voice we need now more than ever before. May we be enriched and blessed by that voice, and may we all heed the call to echo the voice of Marsha P. Johnson in all that we do.
Mr. Wicker, I was always with her. Mr. Wicker, for all she was giving, she always forgave. She gave me life. Yeah, she made her noise, especially when she hustled boys on 42nd Street. I took me in, made me complete. Sylvia, we started a movement. We were the change. I was there too, you know. Fighting me, making change, making rules, building tools. Says the tool. I'm sorry, Sylvia. Me too. But what can you do? If she liked you, I'll like you too. We lived in two worlds, on the street, in the rooms. Randy, you can change her, but please don't be a stranger. But Sylvia, why were you so loud? I'm gay and proud, and annoying, angry, cloying. I'm enjoying this like old times. We lived in two worlds, and the world was changing. We made all that mess for the best, for each other. Mr. Wicker, she'd call through the door after dates and she'd tell it all. Sylvia, I hear it still, flowers in her hair. Her last $10 went to lilies and daisies. She still did that when she was living with you. Are you kidding? There were petals all over the floor. We lived in two worlds, but she changed everyone.
So I hope you'll come over to Zoom for second hour. I'm presenting today a story that Janice Wood brought to my attention after I talked about Bayard Rustin last week. And it's a fascinating story. I think that you will enjoy the part that characters you know played in the story and how it has impacted the lives of people as recently as just this week. So come come on over at 11:15. Join us on Zoom and keep an eye on your email. As always, I'm happy to hear from you by text or phone or email at any time. I have scheduled office hours, but can usually adjust other things in my schedule to meet with you whenever it's convenient for you. And next week, I'm hoping I will see you with me here in this space. For now, our service has ended. May our service begin.
Thank you.